second panel here is entitled U.S. and Middle East in Search of Strategy. And with us this afternoon is Congressman Nick Rahall from West Virginia, Dr. Hamed Rahmadeen from the London Media and Consulting Center, Mr. Doug Bondo from the Cato Institute and the Huffington Post, and Professor Muhatin Ataman from the Ankara Social Science University. So what I'd like to do is I'll ask each of these members to introduce themselves and take 10 minutes to make their presentation. And then when we finish up with that presentation, we'll take question and answers. And it's probably a good idea, as we did the last time, if you would just write your name on a piece of paper if you'd like to be called, and as you hand them to one of the staff people, they'll bring them up, and then we'll try to do them in an order with regards to who did that. So again, my name is Saul Anuzis. I am a fellow at the National Interest Foundation, and we're glad to be here. And let's start with Congressman Nick Rahall.
I'm Congressman Nick Rahall. I served for 38 years in the United States Congress from the state of West Virginia. I'm actually an American of Lebanese heritage. I believe strongly in the words of the Lebanese poet Khalil Gibran, "He who denies his heritage has no heritage." So I've traveled this region, the Middle East region, for over 4 decades now, and I have seen a lot of changes in this area, as I have in U.S. politics. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'll go ahead with my opening statement then. I thought we were just doing brief bios. As I said, I have served in the U.S. Congress for 38 years and have traveled the Middle East quite extensively over that time period. I have, in every trip that I've made to the region, under every administration, Republican, Democrat, there has always been frustration with U.S. policy in the region. There's always been accusations hurled against the President of the United States, regardless of his or her party. And it's been quite frustrating as an American of Arab descent who has always wanted to do what is in America's best interest, number one. That's what my responsibility as a public official in our system is all about. And those questions and those accusations against America are always against our office holders or our State Department. Underlying every accusation has always been a belief of the people of this region in the people of the United States. People to people, we love you. We get along well. If only we could get governments out of the way, I think maybe our peoples would get along a lot better. So I've seen those accusations hurled, and to me it's quite frustrating because our policy in this region seems to be dictated, and this will cause a lot of consternation in certain quarters, but it's very obvious it's dictated by one non-Arab country in the region. And that's, in my opinion, the root of the frustration with U.S. policy, regardless of the administration, regardless of who's president, over the decades. As long as our policy continues to preach human rights and democracy on the one hand and every other region of the world but the Middle East, that frustration is going to continue. As long as our policy continues to support a policy of occupation and denial of human rights to Palestinians, in my opinion, the root of the problem against U.S. policy will always be there. Now today, we have quite a different scenario. While that tenet still drives our policy, it's a matter of emphasis today. It's a matter of style. This president, actually long before this president came to the scene, the current Prime Minister of Israel was always preaching the politics of fear-mongering, of raising that fear among the people in order to continue his hold on power. Donald Trump learned from Bibi Netanyahu, and now they are locked at the hip, both trying to secure, number one, their reelection, not the best interests of their state, but their own personal reelections. And so that's the basis of what is U.S. strategy, in my opinion, in this region today. And I like to discern between U.S. policy and State Department policy over the decades and the president at any particular time. Our State Department is composed of professionals, the vast bulk of whom are there through president after president after president. Yeah, there are Arabists or there are Jewish enthusiasts in our State Department, but overall they're professionals and they guide U.S. policy as adults. The presidents come and go. This current president, I'm sure, has created a great deal of frustration within our own U.S. State Department by his tweets, by his switching positions, by his offhanded comments. Indeed, it seems like oftentimes to the world that Donald Trump is flying by the seat of his pants or just shooting from the hip. But don't let that fool you. It's a very calculated, it's a very targeted policy that aims, as I've already said, at number one, his own reelection, and number two, the reelection of Bibi Netanyahu in Israel. So the president is stoking fear among our people. Now, that fear was long there before Donald Trump came to office. Yes, it was boiling, and Donald Trump led it to the surface, and he's continued to stoke it while he's in office. And he's going to use that for his reelection, that base that we all know of, that 25 or 30%, whatever percentage it is, that will support him if he went down on Fifth Avenue tomorrow and shot 5 people. That base would still be with him. And it's in my home state of West Virginia, believe me, I know about it. So it's that base that President Trump plays to in every one of his tweets, in every policy position he makes, whether it's the Middle East or whether it's Middle America. And in the Middle East, part of that base is evangelical Christians. And they are standing with, they're part of that 30% base that makes up Donald Trump's support in America. And so he will play to that base. Everything is done in the Middle East, the moving of our embassy to Jerusalem, the Golan Heights last week, cozying up to Bibi Netanyahu and stomping on Palestinian rights. It all feeds right into the evangelical Christian agenda as well. And that's part of his targeted strategy to get reelected. I've always said, just hang in there and trust and believe in America, because we will survive this president. This region will survive this president of the United States. And believe me, if you don't give up on us, we will not give up on you.
Thank you, Congressman. Just another reminder, if anybody has any questions, if you want to bring them up here when we're done, I'll be able to read them. So next, I would like to ask Dr. Hamed Ramadan to introduce himself and give your statement, please.
Thank you very much. أحمد رمضان باحث في العلاقات السياسية والدولية، أيضا عضو الآن في الهيئة السياسية للائتلاف الوطني السوري ورأس الدائرة الإعلامية، وأعمل أيضا في المجال البحثي والعلمي منذ حوالي والإعلامي أيضا منذ حوالي 4 عقود. أريد أن أستثمر حقيقة هذه الفرصة والدقائق المتاحة أولا بالشكر للدعوة، وثانيا لتقدير حالة الإحباط والغضب التي سادت في الجلسة الأولى، ربما نتيجة ما يجري، وربما أن الظروف الأخيرة التي تتم سواء في بعض مؤشرات السياسة الأمريكية تعزز حالة الغضب الشعبي. لكن أيضا كنخبة نحن بحاجة الآن لحوار عميق فيما بيننا أولا، ثم نحتاج إلى أن نصل إلى مشتركات، وأعتقد أنها موجودة إذا ما بحثنا عنها في العلاقة الأمريكية العربية أو العلاقة الأمريكية مع الشرق الأوسط. لا شك أن السياسة الأمريكية في الشرق الأوسط كثيرا ما تأثرت بحسب سياسات الإدارات المتعاقبة، وهذا الأمر من الصعب إغفاله لدى أي باحث في المجال السياسي والدولي. ثمة نقاط يمكن وصفها بأنها مستقرة أو مستمرة في هذا المجال، لكن بالمقابل هناك أيضا نقاط متغيرة نستطيع أن نتحدث عن مصالح الولايات المتحدة في المنطقة التي يجب أن نفهمها جيدا بالنسبة لقوة كبرى تعتبر القوة الأولى في العالم. وأيضا هناك المصالح الخاصة بالطاقة، سواء بمخزون الطاقة أو ممرات الطاقة أو ممرات التجارة الدولية التي تتواجد فيها منطقة الشرق الأوسط أو المنطقة العربية بشكل عام. هناك أمن الحلفاء. هناك أيضا يعني كما أعلنت وزارة الدفاع الأمريكية في عام 2000 عن رؤيتها لمصالح الولايات المتحدة، حددت 8 نقاط خاصة بهذا المجال، منها قضية الديمقراطية وحقوق الإنسان. وأعتقد أن الإشكالية التي يمكن أن أتحدث هنا عن الأداء الأمريكي بشكل عام هي أن الولايات المتحدة تملك ما يمكن وصفه بالمبادئ الملهمة كمجتمع، كشعب له تاريخ أيضا في مجال قاوم الاستعمار من ناحية، وبنى نموذجا للديمقراطية من الصعب إغفاله. ونحن شاهدنا ربما البلد النادر الذي يستطيع أن يحاكم رئيسه أو يحاسبه أو يتحدث في النواب في وجه الرئيس. أضف إلى ذلك البعد الثقافي، البعد الفني، الإنتاج العلمي الهائل أيضا الموجود لدى الولايات المتحدة. في المقابل ما يمكن وصفه بالمبادئ الملهمة هناك أيضا المصالح الصادمة التي تؤدي في كثير من الأحيان إلى إحداث صدمة في المناطق المستهدفة، ومنها المنطقة العربية. ربما السيناتور نيك تحدث قبل قليل عن بعض الإشكاليات في الموقف الأمريكي في هذا الاتجاه، لكن ما أغفل أمريكيا، وأتمنى من أصدقائنا هنا أن يتنبهوا إليه، إلى أن هناك أعداد هائلة من العرب أو من أهالي الشعوب الشرق الأوسط الذين درسوا في الولايات المتحدة ودرسوا أيضا في الغرب عموما، لكن مشكلة هؤلاء أنهم عندما عادوا إلى بلادهم وقد استلهموا النموذج إن صح التعبير الأمريكي أو فهموا المبادئ الأمريكية جيدا، صدموا في نهاية المطاف بواقع المصالح الموجودة في المنطقة، أي أن الولايات المتحدة أو الإدارة الأمريكية بشكل عام تحاور النظم في غالبها نظم غير ديمقراطية، نظم ممكن وصفها أحيانا مستبدة أو نظم ليست ديمقراطية بالمجمل، وتتجاهل أيضا النخبة الهائلة التي موجودة في المجتمعات الشرق أوسطية والمجتمعات العربية التي درست وتعلمت واكتسبت، وهي تحتاج أن ترى نموذجا حرا وديمقراطيا وسلميا وتداوليا ومدنيا أيضا في مجتمعاتها. وهذه فجوة لم يتم التعاطي معها والانتباه إليها، لأنها كانت أساسية في نمو موجة الغضب وأحيانا اضطرار هذه النخبة للعودة من حيث أتت، أي العودة إلى الولايات المتحدة أو دول المهجر. النقطة الثانية، عندما بدأت يعني بعد مرحلة انتهاء الحرب الباردة وتفكك المنظومة الاتحاد السوفيتي ثم المنظومة الاشتراكية بشكل عام في أوروبا الشرقية، هناك موجة الآن من تحرك الشعوب، وكان نصيب ربما منطقة العربية متأخرا نسبيا، لكن هذه المنطقة كان من الطبيعي أنها ستشهد هذا الحراك الذي يجب أن تتجاوب معه الشعوب، خاصة الدول والمجتمع الدولي والولايات المتحدة في المقدمة، لأن الشعوب في نهاية المطاف قد تطرح مطالب اقتصادية، لكنها هي مطالب تتعلق بالعدالة، تتعلق بالحرية، تتعلق بالكرامة، تتعلق بالمواطنة المتساوية أيضا، وهي أعتقد أنها ليس هناك خلاف عليها في الولايات المتحدة. هنا دعوني أذكر يعني مثال واضح كان الحقيقة في سوريا. في سوريا عندما توفي حافظ الأسد وجاء بشار الأسد، يعني على الرغم من أن سوريا توصف بأنها منطقة نفوذ روسية إلى حد ما، لكن الكل يعلم أن النفوذ الأمريكي كان أساسيا في سوريا، ولا يستطيع حافظ الأسد ولا بشار الأسد أن يتحرك دون ذلك. كان هناك اللقاء الشهير الذي جرى قبل أن يدفن حافظ الأسد بين بشار والسيدة مادلين أولبرايت وزيرة خارجية الولايات المتحدة في ذلك الوقت، والذي شكل الشرارة التي بدأ فيها باستلام منصبه، رغم أنه لم يكن يحمل أي صفة رسمية لا في الدولة ولا في الحزب. مع ذلك بدأت بالتوازي انطلاق ما سمي بربيع دمشق ثم إعلان دمشق، أي موجة الحراك المجتمعي الديمقراطي في سوريا، بينما النظام كان يستقوي بالعلاقة أحيانا مع الولايات المتحدة وأحيانا مع دول أخرى مثل فرنسا في قمع هذه الحريات. لم نشاهد تلك الحماسة الكافية من أجل مناصرة المجتمع المدني طوال 11 سنة تعرض للقمع الكبير. في 2011 أيضا جرى لقاء بين السفير الأمريكي روبرت فورد وهو صديقنا في دمشق مع عدد من الشخصيات المعارضة، وحدد فيها الرؤية الأمريكية للحراك الذي يجري في سوريا، بما في ذلك عدم دعمه في حالة تسلح، أو أن لا يؤدي إلى تغيير عنفي، وأن لا يؤدي إلى قيام نظام بين قوسين إسلامي في سوريا. واستقبل بعد ذلك روبرت فورد في حماة كما تذكرون من أكثر من 500,000 متظاهر، لأنهم كانوا يعتقدون، والجمهور هنا كان يعتقد أن، والشعب السوري بشكل عام، أنه يمكن أن يحظى بنوع من المساندة الأمريكية بناء على المبادئ الملهمة وليس المصالح الصادمة. المبادئ الملهمة التي يعتقد أنها يمكن أن تقود هذه السياسة. لكن للأسف يعني يمكن وصف ما جرى بعد ذلك بنوع من الخذلان الكبير، تحديدا في إدارة الرئيس أوباما الذي يعني تصرف معطيا الأولوية لإيران، والسياسة الأمريكية الخارجية تسببت في ذلك الوقت بحقيقة بتمدد إيراني غير مسبوق في المنطقة، وفي مقابل الحصول على الاتفاق النووي. إذا نحن مرة أخرى أعطينا الأولوية للمصالح على حساب المبادئ. أنا لا أريد أن أطيل كثيرا لأن الوقت محدود، لكن سأعطي هنا الخلاصات السريعة المطلوبة مننا ومن زملائنا أيضا الضيوف، وهي الحاجة إلى أن يكون هناك حوار عميق بين النخبة الأمريكية والنخبة العربية والشرق أوسطية فيما يتعلق بالعلاقة الناظمة الاستراتيجية بين الطرفين. لا يمكن أن تبقى العلاقة لا علاقة غاضبة ولا علاقة سوء فهم. أنا لا أقول علاقة سوء الفهم من جانب واحد، أي من الجانب الأمريكي، حتى من طرفنا هناك سوء فهم كبير لفهم ميكانيزم أو آليات العمل في السياسة الأمريكية بشكل عام والتعقيدات، وهي سياسة معقدة حتى بالنسبة لمن يعيش داخل أمريكا. النقطة الثانية، يجب على الولايات المتحدة أن تعيد التوازن إلى سياستها الخارجية في المنطقة. ما جرى مؤخرا فيما يتعلق بالقدس والآن الجولان لا شك أنه يقود المنطقة إلى حالة صراع غير مسبوقة، ويدفع المنطقة نحو الهاوية، ويعطي ذريعة سواء كان للإيراني أن يتمدد أكثر، ويعطي ذريعة أيضا للإرهاب لكي يستفيد من هذه الموجة، ويعطي ذريعة لحالة الفوضى. إذا نحن بحاجة لتعامل، إعادة ثقة وبإعادة توازن كذلك. وأعتقد أننا يمكن أن ننشئ عبر هذه الورش ورش أخرى إضافية نستطيع من خلالها أن نصل إلى نتائج ملموسة. شكرا لكم.
Thank you, Dr. Ramadan. And next is Doug Bondo from the Cato Institute. So if you can introduce yourself and take 10 minutes, please.
My name is Doug Bondo. I work with a think tank in Washington. I've been in that city for quite some time, many years. And I think American policy in many ways towards the Middle East is addicted to intervention. American policymakers have trouble imagining a world in which the United States is not attempting to fix it, to change it in different ways. And that really underlies the problem of a US policy today, which is very little consistency, extraordinary activism, but also extraordinary failure. And as much as American policymakers talk about changing their priorities, They talk about rebalancing towards Asia, for example. They talk about dealing with Russia and other issues. They always seem to come back to the Middle East. And we see that today even with President Trump, who has at times been very critical of past U.S. policy, but nevertheless finds himself stuck, it seems, doing many of the same things that past presidents have done. American intervention certainly is not new. I think one of the most important interventions, which most Americans are not aware of and pay little attention to, of course, was in 1953 in Iran, where the United States worked against a democratically elected government. You know, that overthrow of Mohammad Mossadegh and leading towards rule of the Shah helped set the course for an authoritarian government in Iran that was then overthrown and frankly, understandably, led to a very hostile government towards the United States. And then many things, of course, came out of that, where the United States then backed Iraq's Saddam Hussein in his war against Iran. And consequences out of that, subsequently his attack on Kuwait, which the United States intervened against. We see one activity after another which spawns a new crisis, which then draws the United States in. And what I think is striking is how badly these interventions typically have turned out. That intervening against Iran early on really led to some of the earlier criticisms we heard of American policy towards democracy. It's very hard for the United States today to preach democracy in Iran, having helped destroy democracy in Iran 50, 60 years ago. It leads to that feeling of inconsistency. We see American military intervention in an earlier civil war in Beirut in 1983, in Lebanon, which turned out very badly for the United States. We've seen, again, on the military side, the 2003 invasion of Iraq that was supposed to, it was put in the United States, drain the swamp. That is, to eliminate this evil regime, to allow democracy to flourish, to help transform the entire Middle East. And of course, almost all the opposite things have happened, with the rise of ISIS, with refugee flows, with sectarian conflict within Iraq, hundreds of thousands of deaths in that conflict, millions of refugees, all tied back to that war. But America's policies beyond war have also, I think, led to extraordinary problems. As Congressman Nick pointed out, a very dominant influence on U.S. policy, of course, is the State of Israel. For many reasons, it has very strong support with the United States politically. Some of that is changing within the Democratic Party. I think in the years ahead, we may see within U.S. politics some very interesting potential changes in how this plays out. And I don't know quite where this is all going. There is rising concern, I think, among progressive Democrats over the plight of Palestinians. And frankly, we also see that even on the religious right. That is, among some of the evangelicals that the congressman mentioned, younger evangelicals. Young people are much more aware of the status of Palestinians and the importance of reaching beyond Israel, but recognizing there are, in fact, two peoples that need to be addressed and that there are rights and liberties to be protected among Palestinians as well. So in the coming years, we may see some change, but today at least, that remains a very strong determinant of U.S. policy. President Trump, of course, is very much part of that, and his relationship with Prime Minister Netanyahu. And we've also seen the U.S. relationship with many of the authoritarian regimes in the region. The U.S. was quite comfortable with President Mubarak in Egypt. There was, I think, at least for a time, some hope within the Obama administration that a Morsi government would lead to a more liberal regime. But the Trump administration today is quite happy dealing with President al-Sisi, who, of course, is far more repressive and brutal than Mubarak ever was. An extraordinary tragedy is going on in Egypt today of tens of thousands of people detained, of essentially no liberties at all left for the Egyptian people. But we also see much of that policy in Bahrain. And the challenge of the U.S. dealing with Saudi Arabia, of course, is one that has been highlighted by the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. But of course, that's not the only issue. What has happened, I think, in Yemen is a humanitarian travesty, tens of thousands of civilians slaughtered, with the active support of the United States, something that many of us in my country are appalled by, but which this administration still supports. And of course, Saudi Arabia has been very supportive of the al-Sisi regime, supportive of what's gone in Bahrain, even kidnapped the Lebanese prime minister at one point, and has tried to assert its control over the country of Qatar. That the U.S. has been very supportive of Saudi Arabia, unwilling to give the same considerations to human rights regarding Saudi Arabia that it insists be protected in Iran. And of course, human rights should be respected in Iran, and they are not. Nevertheless, it's very hard to take Secretary Pompeo seriously when he denounces Iran for human rights violations, knowing that Saudi Arabia is, in fact, guilty of far greater violations of human rights in almost every score, from religious liberty to political democracy to anything else. And of course, the U.S. is involved in other Gulf countries as well. And as I'm certain you all are quite aware, the U.S. has its own difficult relationship with Turkey in the question of a number of issues, Syria policy, dealings with NATO and others, a challenge there that the U.S. has always been very insistent on what it wants. I think the United States is having some trouble today dealing with a Turkey that is more assertive and a Turkey that is more determined to set its own policy and act in ways that Turkey believes is in its interest, as opposed to the interests of the United States. And the United States, I think, has trouble always dealing with countries that assert themselves against U.S. policy. I think that that's going to be the ultimate challenge for future administrations in the United States, is recognizing the limits of U.S. policy. It's something that people at my think tank write about and try to point out to the American people, is that the United States is not in a position to dictate outcomes in the Middle East as much as it wishes it could do so. The people in the Middle East have their own beliefs, their own interests. They are very tough people, quite willing to revolt against authoritarian governments, as we've seen, willing to fight hard for their rights, that they cannot be expected to give in to U.S. policy. My hope is that the United States will step back and be very engaged, but much more engaged on kind of the personal, the NGO level, the cultural level, and in other ways as people to people, while the U.S. government learns to step back from arrogance, learns to step back from attempting to dictate outcomes, and steps back from some of its inordinate military interventions and finds a new way of dealing with the peoples of the Middle East. And the United States also has to be very aware that whenever it acts against human rights, that it's losing its own credibility and sacrificing its own principles, but very rarely advancing its interests in a significant way, because authoritarian regimes are not, in fact, good partners for the United States, that over the long term, the United States will benefit from a freer Middle East, as opposed to one that is stuck with autocracy, stuck in conflict, and with the kind of problems that we see today.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me hit this to stop that. And last is Professor Muhittin Adaman. And if you could introduce yourself and take 10 minutes to present, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Muhittin Ataman. I'm a professor of international relations at Social Sciences University of Ankara. And I also work for SETA Foundation, one of the leading Turkish think tanks based in Ankara and Istanbul. I work as director of foreign policy research there. I want to elaborate on the most recent changes of the American foreign policy towards the Middle East. I will try to focus on several significant points that I consider as much more relevant in, for Trump's administration. Then I will begin to ask a question: what has changed in the American foreign policy towards the Middle East? The first point to mention is the United States used to keep a balance between realism and liberalism, between interests and values. But nowadays, the United States has abandoned or destroyed this balance in favor of interests and realism. That is, the United States used to have a political discourse focusing on democracy promotion and promotion of free trade worldwide. But nowadays, these two concepts seems anachronic. When we look at the Trump administration, we see that we see a very strong mercantilist economic policy, and we see a very realistic, even offensive realistic foreign policy towards the region. Since it has been following a unilateral foreign policy towards the region. The second factor to mention is the United States used to support the powers of status quo in the region, such as Saudi Arabia and the Shah of Iran for decades. But nowadays, the United States has been supporting revisionist powers in the region, such as the Israeli state, such as the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia. And also, the last two used to be known the hardcore pro-status quo powers in the region. I mean, Saudi Arabia especially. It was one of the most authoritarian but most pro-status quo power in the region. Nowadays, they have been following a revisionist policy. So the United States has been supporting their revisionist policies. I mean, it's not only an American revisionism, it's also additionally a revisionist policy of its partners in the region. Unfortunately, the United States has been opposing the very same system that was established by some other Western countries and consolidated by the United States. Now the United States has been opposing this system. The third point that I want to mention is the Trump administration has been otherizing not only one section or one type or one kind of Muslim community or political actors. He has been against all, indifference of their sects, whether they are moderate or radicals, whatsoever. I mean, all groups representing Muslim communities, Muslim peoples in the region, whether they are represented at the state level or non-state level, they have been otherized by the United States. The United States has been otherizing Iran simultaneously, Turkey, many Shia groups or political parties, and many Sunni groups and political parties in the region, including Ikhwan Muslimin, which was considered until very recently as a moderate Islamic movement, even in the West. So today, as I've said, it has been trying to otherize all groups. For instance, in the Palestinian case, they used to oppose Hamas, but they were in favor of Fatah. But nowadays, the Trump administration has been otherizing the both sides. So there is no partner or dialogue partner for the United States in the Palestinian case. The Trump administration seems a very strong pro-Israeli actor rather than a neutral power broker in the region. The fourth factor that I want to focus is the Trump administration has been trying to establish a hierarchical regional order in the Middle East. a hierarchical regional order controlled by the Israeli state and supported by the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia and also Egypt. So for this reason, the United States and its regional partners has been using all kinds of coercion, compulsion against other actors. I mean, economic, political, and military force are used in order to